Can you think of waking up tomorrow with absolutely nothing? No savings, no connections, no safety net? Just you and the pressure to survive. Most people believe that success comes from money, powerful families, or lucky opportunities. The world constantly pushes the idea that if you weren't born into the right situation, your chances of building wealth are almost zero. But here's the strange part. Some of the wealthiest people in the world started exactly like that, with nothing. No inheritance, no elite connections, no guaranteed future. And somehow, they still managed to build fortunes. So the real question isn't whether starting from nothing is possible. The real question is, what do they understand that most people never figure out? Because once you see the pattern behind these stories, you start realizing something surprising. Starting from nothing might actually be an advantage. But to understand why, we need to start with a truth most people don't want to hear. And it begins with the brutal reality of having zero. Starting from nothing isn't romantic. There's no inspiring music, no dramatic speeches, just pressure. The kind of pressure that comes from knowing one mistake could set you back years, or even push you deeper into survival mode. For many people who eventually became successful, childhood looked nothing like the glamorous lifestyles we associate with wealth today. Take Howard Schultz, the man who built Starbucks into a global empire. He didn't grow up in luxury. He grew up in public housing, watching his father struggle with unstable jobs and injuries that left the family constantly worried about money. Schultz once described seeing his father come home defeated after losing work and realizing something powerful. No one was coming to rescue them. That realization planted a seed. Because when you grow up with nothing, you quickly learn a lesson that comfortable people rarely understand. Survival creates urgency, and urgency creates action. But pressure alone doesn't build success. Plenty of people experience hardship and still remain stuck. So what separates the few who escape from the millions who stay trapped? The answer starts with a hidden asset almost no one notices. When people imagine wealth, they picture money. But the people who start from nothing know something different. Money is rarely the first asset. Knowledge is. Consider Jan Koum, who immigrated to the United States as a teenager. His family relied on food assistance just to get by. But Koum discovered something that would quietly change his life: computers. He spent hours teaching himself programming, reading manuals, experimenting, learning everything he could. No investors, no mentors, no prestigious university guiding the way. Just curiosity. Years later, that curiosity turned into a simple messaging app called WhatsApp, and eventually, that app would be acquired by Meta platforms for billions. But the real turning point didn't happen when the company sold. It happened years earlier, when Koum decided to build a skill that the world needed. Because knowledge behaves differently from money. Money can disappear overnight. Skills compound. The more you learn, the more opportunities start appearing. But knowledge alone still isn't enough. Because at some point, every success story reaches the same terrifying moment. A moment where everything could collapse. And it's the decision made in that moment that changes everything. Every story of someone rising from nothing includes a moment that looks completely insane from the outside. A moment when logic says it's safer to quit. But something inside refuses to stop. Take John Paul DeJoria, the co-founder of Paul Mitchell. Before building his company, DeJoria experienced homelessness, living in his car while trying to survive. Then he made a decision most people would consider reckless. He launched a business with just $700, no marketing machine, no corporate backing, no guarantee anyone would even buy the product, just belief and relentless persistence. He spent days going salon to salon, asking owners to try the product, often getting rejected over and over again. But eventually, something happened. One small win, then another, then another. And slowly, that tiny risk turned into a global brand. This is the moment most people miss. Success rarely arrives in giant leaps. It starts with a single decision to try something uncertain. But once that first win appears, something even more powerful begins: momentum. The first $1,000 you earn from your own effort might be the hardest money you'll ever make, because it requires breaking through doubt. Doubt from others, doubt from the world, and sometimes doubt from yourself. But once that barrier is broken, something fascinating happens. Progress starts compounding. Small profits get reinvested. New skills get added. Connections start forming. and opportunities that once felt impossible suddenly appear within reach. The people who escape poverty understand this instinctively. Instead of spending their early gains trying to look successful, they reinvest them to become successful. They upgrade their knowledge, they upgrade their network, they upgrade their systems, and slowly the gap between them and everyone else begins to widen. But behind that growth lies a pattern almost no one talks about, because from the outside, success looks exciting. Behind the scenes, it's surprisingly boring. If you could secretly watch the daily routines of self-made millionaires, you might be shocked by how ordinary they look. No constant parties, no endless luxury. Instead, the pattern looks almost repetitive. Reading, learning, planning, working, day after day. Many successful entrepreneurs follow simple routines that compound over years. They read daily to sharpen their thinking. They track their goals carefully. They control spending even after money starts flowing in. And perhaps most importantly, they stay consistent when motivation disappears, because motivation fades. Discipline doesn't, and over time, these habits create something powerful. A system that begins producing opportunities almost automatically. But once someone builds this system, they eventually discover a truth that changes their entire relationship with money. Most people grow up believing money only comes from working harder, more hours, more effort, more exhaustion. But the wealthy eventually realize something different. Working harder isn't the real path to wealth. Ownership is. Owning a business, owning investments, owning systems that generate value even when you're not actively working. This realization shifts everything, because when income becomes tied to ownership instead of hours, growth accelerates dramatically. This is why entrepreneurship and investing show up again and again in the stories of self-made millionaires. They move from earning money to controlling the systems that produce it. And once that shift happens, momentum begins to take over. Opportunities multiply. Networks expand. And the same person who once struggled just to survive now finds themselves surrounded by possibilities. But the most surprising part of the journey comes at the very end. Because many people who rise from nothing eventually realize something unexpected. Their greatest disadvantage was actually their greatest advantage. Starting from nothing forces clarity. When you have no safety net, every decision matters. Every mistake teaches something. Every small victory feels meaningful. And slowly, that pressure sharpens you. Many people born into comfort never experience this urgency. They have options. They have cushions. They have time to drift. But the person who starts with nothing often develops something far more powerful. Relentless drive. And history keeps showing the same pattern. Over and over again, people who begin with nothing, building everything. Not because they were lucky, not because someone handed them an opportunity, but because they learned to turn pressure into progress. So, if you ever feel like you're starting from behind, remember this: the most dangerous competitor in the world isn't the person who has everything. It's the person who has nothing left to lose. Because when someone decides to rise from nothing, they're capable of building something the world never expected.